Yesterday we left off again talking about what's called knot by knot. If you cook some parve in a pot that's ben yoimei, any ben yoimei, the various things you can eat it with meat directly or with milk directly, or run right after the next and so on. Okay, what happens though if you cooked something very sharp parve in a halachic pot? So let's say you cooked onions that's not diluted. So let's say you cook, onions or hot peppers or lemons or horseradish or very salty foods, garlic in a pot. And therefore now, because it's sharp, so a few things. So now this, because you cook it in the pot, so now the pot, which is halachic, makes the things actually halachic. So therefore you cannot eat it together with milk at all. And the chiddush is, even if the pot wasn't used for 24 hours, even let's say the pot was not used for meat for 24 hours. So normally we learned if it wasn't used for 24 hours, not you cook vegetables in it, you could make the vegetables, eat the vegetables with milk together. But because it's sharp, and we already learned in the past, that if something is sharp, it makes blemish unblemished. So therefore, if somebody takes a pot and just cooks very sharp foods in there with heat, that food is really halachic. You can't eat it together with milk at all. Now, it doesn't make you, though, enough that you have to wait 6 hours after eating it. In other words, what happens if I cooked or I broiled an onion, okay, without liquid, so okay, or whatever, and in a meat pot that wasn't used for 24 hours. But now it's sharp, the onion is sharp, so now the onion became halachic. I cannot eat it with milchiks. Do I have to wait 6 hours after eating that onion until I'm able to eat milk? So most opinions say no, you don't have to. There's one opinion that we don't pass on like this, generally speaking, that says that what happens if you had meat and then you want to eat something sharp that was cooked in a milk pot, you shouldn't eat it for 6 hours. But most people don't pass on like that. So the bottom line is that it has its first taste and then you can't eat it with milk at all. Okay? But that's only if the sharp food was cooked without any other ingredients. What happens if I had a whole bunch of vegetables? And in the vegetables there were also onions. So I cooked in the vegetables, including onions, in a pot that's meat. So then the din is, because the majority of the food is not sharp, so then it doesn't have a din of it doesn't become halachic. Even the onion doesn't. Because the other foods weaken the sharpness of the onion.
What if you have a meaty knife and you cut the onion with the knife cold?
We're going to get there soon. That's a different din.
What if the other ingredients is water?
Again, if it's cooked a majority or a lot of water or a lot of other vegetables, that they're the majority, it loses its sharpness. Huh? Or something else. What happens if you put, let's say, you have a soup, and then you put garlic into the soup. So again, the garlic is not going to become halachic, because you're putting a few pieces of garlic in the soup that the majority is not garlic. So it weakens the sharpness of the garlic. What?
So, I just want to be clear. If you're cooking vegetables with meat, and
Not with meat. No. This whole case we're talking about, you cook parve vegetables in a meat pot without meat. But it was used for meat. So normally, if it's not sharp food, and it was used within the last 24 hours, the custom is you don't eat it together with milk, right before, right after. If it wasn't used for 24 hours, then you could eat it together with milk. But if it's sharp, so then you don't eat it with meat or milk. You have to keep it completely parve. But again, that din only applies if there was nothing else in the pot. If other food's in the pot, or liquid in the pot, it nullifies the taste, the sharpness of the food. So then when it weakens the sharpness of the food, then it's like any other food that if it was 24 hours, you don't eat together with milk. What?
It's very common to start off by making a dish by frying the onions in the pot.
Yeah.
So then you add.
So if you're frying onions in a pot, one second. If you're frying onions in a pot, yeah. So now the onions are fleshig. Because you use a little bit of oil, but you don't put more oil than onions, usually, right? Then you're deep frying it. If it would be like that, if the majority would be oil versus the onions, yeah, then the onions lose their sharpness. But if you have, let's say, a little bit of oil and you have a lot of onions, so the onions actually become fleshig. So now you put these fleshig onions in a mixture of vegetables, but they're already fleshig. They're already meat. So it's not going to help you. Again, if you eat that salad, you don't have to wait 6 hours. But you can have that salad together with milk. Yeah, you're right. It's very common. People saute onions, and then they continue cooking the process. Yeah, that would be a true statement. Okay, now, what happens, changing the topic a little bit, what happens, cold meat and cold cheese are touching each other, okay, next to each other in the fridge. We're talking about without bags, without labels, just meat and cheese touching each other. So if they're completely dry, meat is dry, the cheese is dry, you're allowed to eat them. They don't connect. There's no connection between the two. If they were wet, okay, let's say one of them was wet, they're even a little bit wet, so then you need to wash off the place where they touched. You need to wash off the place where it touched, and the minhag is brought down in halacha that you do it 3 times. You wash it 3 times. Again, because the wetness it's not heat that's going to transfer it, but the wetness, the place of the meeting, it's a little bit, so you need to wash it off very well. What?
Cold, hot, cold.
Huh? We're talking about all cold. Yeah, with cold water, sure. If you wash it with hot water, you're going to make it worse. What?
What is considered washing? Washing, dry, washing, dry, washing, dry?
No, you don't have to dry it 3 times or 2 times. You can wash it again and again. That's it. By the way, halachically, if you wash it once, it's good enough. The minhag is to do it 3 times. Now, what happens if one of them was a little fatty? Like what happens if you have butter? Butter is fatty. Okay, and it touched cold meat, then you have to wash them off very well, even if they're dry, but still, because they're fatty, you have to wash them off very well. Now, what happens if somebody this is what you were asking. Somebody cuts with a cold dairy knife, they cut a piece of meat. By mistake, they cut cold meat with a clean dairy knife. Okay? So now what the problem over here is, it's not like just 2 things touching each other. For instance, we learned already in the past, if somebody is going to eat chicken soup, no. If somebody's going to eat cereal, because chicken soup is usually warm. If you're going to eat cold cereal and milk, with a meat spoon, it's cold, so nothing. You just wash off the spoon in cold water from the milk and that's it. It's not the food, everything's good. But here there's a bigger problem when you use a knife. When you use a knife and it's hard, so then that's what's called in halacha the expression duchke de sakina. Duchke de sakina means the pressure of the knife. So then the din is as follows. Whether the knife was used that day or not, halachically, you need to wash it very, very well in the place where you cut. The minhag is also more so to actually cut off, it's called, we mentioned this briefly in the past, you have to cut off what's called kedei klipa. Klipa is like a very thin peel. So what is the din of kedei klipa? You need to cut off a piece, very thin, but it has to come out that it doesn't fall apart. And there's one thin slice, that would come out in one piece because the pressure of the knife made it go a little bit into the food. So even though halachically washing it very well is enough, but again, because of duchket the sakina, because of the pressure of the knife, the minig is halacha said you have to wash it very, very well, the meat or the whatever you're cutting, but you need to also do kedei klipa. One.
Which knife are you using to do that thin slice?
That's a good question. If it's a piece of meat, use a meat knife.
So you take
Yeah. You wash it off well, and then you take you don't have to take a milk knife because then you get back to the same problem again. What?
The piece you cut off, can you give it to the animal?
Then you can give it to the animal because it's only a minig to be machmed to do it, so it's not treif, it's not bas v'cholof. That would be also bano. Yeah.
You have to put it into a knife.
What's up? We didn't get to the knife yet. What's that? What?
If you're cutting a piece of garlic or a piece of onion, let's say with a cold meat knife, can you use it, would you be able to use that garlic or onion like on a grilled cheese sandwich?
No. If you cut, we learned already, if you cut, it's going to be more here in this din. If you cut something sharp, let's say you cut an onion, okay? The onion is now completely meat. Let's use a meat knife, cold. Even if the knife wasn't used for 3 weeks and it's clean. But because it's sharp, it doesn't matter if the knife was used within 24 hours or not. And again, because it's sharp, the pressure goes more. So, halachically, the only time the rest of the onion would be good if you have 60 times in the onion the size of the blade that went into the onion. Okay, now that's the only thing, remember, if you cut it in half. Whatever, if you slice it or dice it, then the whole onion's fleishik. Mamish fleishik.
What about the knife? How can you clean the knife?
1 minute, so what do you do with the knife in that case? So the din is, it's getting late, the din is you have to do what's called ne'itza b'karka. You have to stick it into hard ground. Now the minig is, you stick the knife into, not mud like this, that's soft. It's not going to do anything. Duchket of sakina, they kasher it by putting into hard ground 10 times in 10 different places. Why? Because if you're going to put it in the same place, the earth is already soft.
Forget about the knife.
No, so if you put the knife, no, why? You stick it 10 times, because again, we learned already the whole concept of kashrus. The way it goes in is the way it goes out. How did this meat go into the milk knife? With pressure, right? It's so cold, but it's pressure. So by putting it into hard ground 10 times, you're undoing the pressure that put the meat into the knife, and then you're undoing it now.
Even if you use the garlic?
By the way, this is all if it's mamish cold. If it's hot, then you have a different story. You have to kasher with boiling hot water.
Even if you cut an onion?
You cut an onion with a meat knife? No. If you cut an onion with a meat knife, the onion's meat. We're talking here you're cutting...
I'm talking about the onion. I'm talking about the knife. How do
What?
You cannot clean that.
What are you cutting with the knife?
Onion.
So the onion...
The knife.
So it's a meat knife, that's all.
You cannot clean it.
What do you mean? You wash it. The knife is fleshing. What's the problem with the knife? There's no dairy on it. Huh?
You use it for daily 2 days after.
Oh, then it's a different story. Then it's not, then you need duchket a second, but then it's cold. It's not sharp anymore. The onion is what becomes fleshing because of the pressure of the knife. The knife is not affected by the onion later. Yeah?
You have to worry about it when you accidentally wash with a daily sponge.
If the water was hot, yes. If the water was not hot, no.